Okay, so Khalil Rountree Jr. v Jamahal Hill just happened at UFC Baku in the main event, a 5 round light heavyweight main event where we saw Khalil Rountree pretty much outclass Jamahal Hill for 5 rounds. I think everyone gave the sort of scoreline 10-9 each round to Khalil. I actually gave one round a 10-8, so I scored the fight a 50-44. But I think a 50-45 is pretty fair. I think that's what most people have given that a fight. Honestly, in my opinion, Jamahal Hill never really stood a chance in winning this fight. I think some of the glaring issues in his striking fundamentals was exposed against Yuri, right? They were exposed against Yuri, and then a guy like Khalil's too good of a striker to be outstruck by a guy like Jamahal Hill. Unless Jamahal Hill was able to land and stop Khalil, he wasn't winning this fight, right? And he wasn't able to. Was never able to get going, mostly because of Khalil's low kicks. Those leg kicks were great. And even though at the start of the fight, Jamahal Hill was actually throwing leg kicks with more volume, Khalil's were far, far, far more powerful. And that power is really what won him the fight, because that power put Jamahal Hill in a mess. It was never in any danger of stopping the fight, but that power was clearly keeping Jamahal Hill honest and meant that Jamahal Hill couldn't really ever get going, right? Because anytime he would, Khalil would counter with something, and in the third round, he dropped him twice. That's the round I would give him a 10-8 because he dropped him twice, even though, most people were saying that's not really a 10-8 because he wasn't nearing stopping the fight, which he wasn't. But I'm like, he dropped him twice. Those are significant events in a fight. He dropped him twice. So I would give it a 10-8. But I completely hear the argument that it's not a 10-8 because he didn't nearly finish the fight. But inarguable that Khalil won this fight, right? Pretty much shut out Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill, like I said, wasn't able to get anything going. And fundamentally, he's not a very good striker anyway, in my opinion, from what I've seen of him in his career. So the first fight I saw of him was him getting slept by Poatan, by Alex Pereira. So maybe you could argue that's not a great entry point. But then he gets styled on by Yuri, gets embarrassed by Yuri, and then he just gets dominated by Khalil as well. I'm like, this guy's a former champion, but he's looking awful. Obviously, the Poatan fight, he gets stopped so early in the fight. You can't do much about that. You can't take a great deal about that apart from Poatan's got huge power. We all knew that, right? But getting styled on the way Yuri styled on him was crazy. And then again now getting dominated by a guy in Khalil who's been well beaten before. Khalil's lost to Kutalaba. He's lost to Johnny Walker. He's lost to a lot of guys who aren't world class, in my opinion, right? And if Jamahal Hill wanted to, in his head, still be in those conversations of at the top of the division, you got to beat Khalil. And he didn't. He didn't even come close. Khalil game plan for that fight perfectly, in my opinion. In terms of what Khalil has as a fighter, he's a strike heavy. He loads up on his shots. He game planned perfectly for that fight. And to be honest, what really impressed me was the fact that he was able to go all 5 rounds. Khalil never really experienced a huge a huge drop off in output, in my opinion. Even if the numbers, might say there was. The eye test, Khalil seemed to be at a decent, sustainable level for each round in that fight, which I was saying before this fight, if Jamahal Hill wins this fight, it's probably going to be in the 4th or 5th round, right? Because I fancy Khalil over almost anyone in the division over a 3-round fight because he's that style of fighter. But he's proved that he's now a 5-round fighter as well. I suppose it's a bit different because Khalil, for the most part, was dictating the pace. Even when Jamahal Hill was trying to apply pressure, his fundamentals are so poor, you're not really even causing Khalil any trouble, right? Because those leg kicks did force Jamahal Hill to fight differently, and it did make him less mobile for sure. But the fundamentals that doesn't affect your fundamentals, or it shouldn't, right? And his fundamentals are awful, so he was never going to win that fight. And honestly, I don't see him winning too many more fights after these sorts of performances, to be honest. But Khalil's now in a very interesting position. He's put his name right in there at the top of the division because you beat Jamahal Hill, who's ranked number 4. He's going to be no doubt looking at the Olbergs, the Yans, the Rakic's, the Yuris potentially. Probably not Yuri, but I mean maybe Yuri. Maybe looking at the Yuris. The problem is all of those guys beat Khalil, probably. And that's really the problem with Khalil Rountree, because all of those guys probably beat him. He could beat an Oldberg. He could beat an Oldberg. He could catch it Yan, but Yan's, even though Yan's old, he's still got that Polish power. To be honest, if you wanted to mess up the light heavyweight division, you would put Khalil v Yan. Because Yan would beat him, and then Yan's at what, 40, 41, 42 at the top of the division, arguably wanting another title shot. To be fair, if Yan could beat Khalil, and then if he was to beat Powhatan in a rematch, that was a very close fight. A very close 3-round fight. And I'm surprised we haven't seen that fight run back yet. Very surprised. Jamahal Hill, he goes back to, I guess, I mean, he'll still be in the top 10, but his next fight shouldn't be against anyone in the top 10. Yeah, I haven't got the live weight rankings in front of me, so we'll have to review that at another time. But yeah, a real routine win for Khalil Rountree here. Really impressed with his power. I mean, but we already knew Khalil has power. Dropped Jamal multiple times. And also was impressed with his gas tank. Above all, was really impressed with Khalil's gas tank. Because, like we saw in the Powhatan fight, he was getting gassed around the 3rd round. Right? And again, you're fighting Powhatan, so there's no shame in that. Do you know what I mean? There's no shame in getting gassed around the 3rd and 4th round against Powhatan. But that's where we asked the question, okay, was this just Powhatan, or are you just generally a guy with a bad gas tank? And he showed it against Jamahal Hill. No, he's not got a bad gas tank. He can go the distance. Right? And Khalil went the distance there. But Khalil's a fighter stylistically that I really enjoy to watch. Always look forward to seeing his fights. So we'll see who's next for him in the light heavyweight division. Who do you guys think Khalil should fight next? And what did you think of this fight? Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.